welcome to this mindfulness session. We're going to go about 45 minutes, hopefully not run past there. And what we're going to do is a few stages. I'm going to do a little description, talk about mindfulness. Then we're going to do a grounding stage where we move our energy down and get grounded. Then we're going to do what in the mindfulness tradition is called close placement, where we just focus on body and breathing. And then the last section will be on sense perceptions and environment, mindfulness of sense perceptions and environment. We'll be having our eyes closed for the grounding part, but open for the mindfulness of body and breathing and mindfulness of sense perceptions. And that's because mindfulness is intended to be something that we do 24/7, rather than just when we sit with our eyes closed. And we don't walk around with our eyes closed or we bump into things, so we need to be able to practice mindfulness with our eyes open as well. If you're working on it, you can experiment a little bit, close them for a little bit, but mainly in this tradition, we're going to try to move to open. Now, what is mindfulness? It comes from the ancient India and was really brought to the forefront by Gautama Buddha 2,500 years ago. So it is an integral part of the Buddhist tradition, but it is the psychological, mental, contemplative part of the tradition rather than any part of the religious ceremonies so much. Now, the ancient Indian word for mindfulness that's translated now as mindfulness is sati, S-A-T-I. One of the translations of sati is remembering what you're doing. You know how you meant to go into the kitchen, you were headed for the kitchen and you were going to do something or get something, you got a little distracted, and then you finally get on your way and you walk into the kitchen and you go, okay, why did I come in here? That's not remembering what you were doing. So mindfulness means that translation is remembering what you're doing. And sometimes it's translated formally as recollection. So you're recalling what it is you're doing. But you could also think of it as recollection, so that when your mind wanders, you recollect yourself back to what you were doing. Mindfulness has two aspects. One is the state of being mindful. And what is that? That's simply paying attention to what you're experiencing internally and externally, moment to moment to moment. So it's always in the here and now, and it is a state of being it's non-judgmental, without a lot of mental commentary. So you could call it experience without a mental echo. When I say a mental echo, you say, oh, you go, oh, you're captivated by a sunset. And then you start thinking about it. Wow, this reminds me of another sunset. Now there's an echo. Oh, I think this might be the most beautiful sunset I've ever seen. Still an echo. I should get my camera and take a picture of this sunset. There's an echo that tries to solidify our experience and make it permanent. So all these are mental echoes, and mindfulness doesn't have an echo. It just moves from moment to moment to moment in a non-judgmental, non-analytical way. So sometimes we call it just noticing. That's one of the translations of mindfulness. The other thing is that the mind does wander. So when you're not in that state of being, when you've wandered off into a daydream, the practice is, when you realize it, when you've woken up from your daydream, come back to what you were doing. I wrote, this is my latest book. I was able to teach mindfulness using, Disney invited me to use Winnie the Pooh characters to teach mindfulness. So the Winnie the Pooh quote we wrote some poems for Winnie the Pooh. And the mindfulness poem is, come back from the future or past to what I was just doing last. That's the way I know how to be Pooh here and now. So come back from the future or past. Well, if you don't have a time machine in your backyard, then the location of your body in space is always here. The location of your body in time is always now, here and now. So you are always in the here and now. And this is the good news. That's the default proposition. But your mind is a time machine, and it goes off into the past or future. Okay? When it does go into the past or future, you're off in a daydream. This is the real good news. When you wake up from that daydream, and you always do, otherwise you'd go off into a daydream and never come back. When you wake up, you're already back. What have you woken up to? You've woken up to the present moment. It's like in the morning, you wake up and you go, oh, wow, that was a very vivid dream. How do you know you were dreaming? Juxtaposition with having woken up. You don't say, wow, that was a pretty vivid dream. I should wake up now. You're already awake. Unless you're doing lucid dreaming, you're already awake. So, in the same way, unless you're doing lucid daydreaming, which I don't think we do, when your mind wanders off into a daydream, at that point, when you realize it, you kind of snap out of it and you go, oh, you're already awake. You're already back. You don't have to say, come back to the present moment. Come back to what you were doing. Remember what you were doing. And whatever the object of your mindfulness was, of your mindfulness practice, body, breathing, sense perceptions, whatever it was, that's what you return your mind to. So that's the practice. And one of the things, because it's good news that you're back, when you wake up out of the daydream, instead of being upset about it, smile and go, oh, good news, I'm back. And then return to your object of attention. Now, the benefit or purpose of mindfulness, two things. One is it enriches our experience. When you're off into the past or off into the future, you're not experiencing what's going on right in front of you. And that's not very fulfilling. Imagine if I told you the only television shows you're going to get to watch from now on are reruns of shows you've already seen or previews of shows you're probably never going to see. That wouldn't be very fulfilling. But what do we do when we're daydreaming? We replay experiences of the past or pre-play what we anticipate for the future. And we're missing what's going on now. So when we tune into what's going on to our experience now, that enriches our experience. And we have more authentic presence. Now, the good news, that's the good news for ourselves. It's also good news for others. Because when we are more present for ourselves, we can also be more genuinely responsive and more present for others. You may have experienced this year, you may have experienced this, you're sitting in a meeting, you're talking with someone at a meeting, and you're talking and they're going like this, and looking around you to see who's there that's more interesting, or maybe they're waiting for someone that they were going to meet. And you feel dissed, right? You feel like they're not present for you. So what we want to be able to do is know, and of course, if you're in the meeting and you're expecting someone, you can say, I just want to let you know I'm expecting someone, so every few minutes I may need to check. But other than that, I am here for you. That's very enriching for both of you. So when we practice mindfulness, we do it in sessions. And what I'm going to do today is short sessions. And in the tradition that I'm part of, it's called the Mahamudra tradition, it's actually recommended to do lots of short sessions rather than try to grit your teeth and hang in there and try to stay there for long sessions. Those are also done. But there's something that's particularly pertinent to our world today and all the things that we're engaged with, to stop and do short sessions. In fact, sometimes when I'm driving, what I do is I use red lights for mindfulness practice. Instead of it triggering irritation, I have the red light trigger, oh, time, there's no place I'm going. I'm going to be sitting still here, so time to do mindfulness. But my eyes are open, so I can see when it turns green, and I don't wait till somebody honks. And it's true, you can do that instead of checking your texts or checking your emails on your phone. People don't understand this, but in California, a lot of people think that it's a law that when you stop at a red light, you have to check your phone and check your texts and email. But it's not true. You don't have to do that. You can practice mindfulness. Okay, so when we do the session, these are the intentions that we have. One, to be really clear and isolate what it is that we have chosen to pay attention to. That's number one. Number two, stay with it as long as we can. And that's the intention, to develop that kind of ability to stay with it a little longer. But our mind wanders. So then the third part is when you realize, when the daydream pops, you've wandered and you pop out of the daydream, at that moment, smile. You can label and say, oh, daydreaming or wandering. You could even, some people go, oh, past, future, but I think it's enough just to say daydreaming or wandering. You don't want to use a negative term like distracted or lost or something like that, because you want to smile and be kind to yourself, and then return to your object of attention. And the idea is to return more crisply and not to get caught as you wake up from the daydream, to actually go, I wasn't quite finished with that daydream. I think I'm going to continue a little longer, but just letting it go, coming back. Okay. Now, that wandering into a daydream can happen just in a flicker. You're sitting there, and it really goes fast. The sequence of thoughts goes pretty fast. You're sitting there and you're breathing. Oh, this is very relaxing. Oh, this reminds me of that yoga class I took. I wonder what happened to that instructor. I think she moved to New York. I love New York. That play we saw was so, and in 1 second, zip, 5 thoughts, and you're in New York watching people singing and dancing. Now, when you realize that, then you go, oh, not in New York, daydreaming, coming back. But some people go, oh, wow, that was amazing. That play really was, and then they go on again. You go, oh, yeah, that play was really good. But the dancing was really good, but the lines weren't very good. I could do better than that. And I could write my own screenplay. What should I write it about it? And blah, 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 and you're off again. So have a sense of humor when that happens. And again, when you realize you've gone back into a daydream, smile and come back to your object of attention. Okay? So that will be the practice. We'll have our object of attention, and then you have this instruction that when you realize you've gone off into a daydream, smile, come back to the object of attention. And what will happen is, as you develop this practice, you'll start to realize it sooner that you've gone into a daydream. And sometimes feel that energy, feel your mind start to drift, and you go, oh, don't need to do that. And you don't actually engage in the daydream. You can actually feel it and include that in your mindfulness. Ooh, that was an impulse to move. Okay, so to start with, let's start our first part of the session. And this is a grounding practice. Because when we're under stress, our energy moves up in our body and faster. We want to use our breathing and our awareness to move it down and slower. We don't say, yesterday I was really down tight. I was uptight. And our shoulders get like this. So 3 phases of grounding practice. We're going to scan our body and let go of any unnecessary tension. I want you to sit up. It's best not to be leaning back in a chair if you can help it. If you need a little support, just scoot your butt back against the back of the chair, but try to sit up as best you can. Shoulders back. And if you slump like this, you tend to get sleepy. If your chin floats up, you tend to get a little drowsy. Get a little spaced out. So what you want to do is feel like the back of your neck extends a little bit, and that naturally brings your chin in. You want to feel like your spine is a tent pole, and the rest of your body is canvas that's just hanging from the tent pole. We'll scan our body, and you can let your eyes gently close. Your hands can be flat on top of your thighs or kind of crossed in your lap, whichever you're more comfortable with. And be aware of your forehead, cheeks, ears, the back of your head, and your jaw. Particularly your jaw, that's where we hold a lot of tension. So just let it melt. Any tension that you find that you don't need to hold your posture, just let it melt and flow down and out of you. And then your throat, your shoulders, a lot of tension in our shoulders sometimes, especially working on a computer. Just let it melt and flow down and out of you. Arms, upper arms, chest and back, lower back, rib cage, deep belly. Sometimes we hold tension there. Without losing your posture, just let it settle. Just let the tension melt and flow down and out of you. Hips and pelvis, thighs, forearms and hands, knees, calves, ankles and feet. And you can take one nice full breath, and as you breathe out, just let all that extra tension sweep down and out of you. Then we usually have our awareness, and we think our mind is up behind our forehead because our eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, it's all up there. Let your awareness fall back and down through your body, like a leaf gently settling to the bottom of a pond. Down the back of your throat, back of your chest, behind your heart, behind your solar plexus, and rib down behind your navel, and settling just in front of your spine, a few inches below your navel, deep in the core of your torso. Let your mind rest there. You can feel the gentle movement of your torso, like gentle eddies at the bottom of a pond, gentle currents at the bottom of a pond. It's quiet down there. Let your mind just settle there. And with each out breath, just feel yourself sink down. Sink down and imagine you're sinking down through the chair, through the floor, right into the earth, merging with the earth. Your lower body, part of the earth. You're part of the earth. Your upper body extending upward majestically in your good posture, like a mountain. And now, rather than directing your breath, just be an observer. Let it come and go as it will. Shorter and longer, deeper and shallower. Just watch it come and go like the wind. Let your mind relax and be open to whatever you're going to experience. Like the sky that overlooks everything on the earth without partiality or bias. Body like a mountain. Breath like the wind. Mind like the sky. And that's as grounded as you can be. From here, we'll move into body and breathing as the object of your awareness. So let your eyes gently open, and they can open part way. You can be gazing slightly downward so that your sense perceptions, your visual field doesn't distract you. Because you want to be aware of the small space that you're sitting in, that your body occupies. Awareness of your posture, awareness of your body, and the object of your attention is the internal sensation of your torso filling with air as you breathe in and emptying as you breathe out. It feels like your torso is filling because to breathe in, your diaphragm pushes down to pull the air into your lungs, so it feels like your lower torso expands. And as you breathe out, the diaphragm comes up, so it feels like your lower torso contracts. So it will feel like, as you breathe in and out, filling as the air comes in, emptying as the air goes out. And we'll do that for a minute or two. Filling, emptying. If you want to label it, if that's helpful as you breathe in and out, you can. If you can let go of the labels, just tune into the sensation. The internal sensation of filling, internal sensation of emptying, along with your posture. And again, if your mind drifts off into a daydream, when you realize it, smile, reinvigorate your posture, and connect to the sensations of filling and emptying. Now to sharpen your awareness a little bit, notice a little more detail. The sensation of the breath starting to fill you, filling, and full. Feeling full. A tiny gap, then starting to empty, emptying, and empty. Transition, starting to fill, filling, full. Transition, starting to empty, emptying, and empty. We'll do that for a minute or so. Good. So, you notice that was a variation on the basic mindfulness session of awareness of the internal sensation of filling and emptying. There are also variations like counting backwards, sometimes labeling your breath, and in fact, adding a feeling to it. Saying, breathing in, I feel calm. Breathing out, I feel generous. Things like that. I just want to share one thing that often comes up. People say they get a little drowsy when they're doing mindfulness. And you see they start to do that. And of course, that makes sense because the only time you're really not doing anything is where you say, I don't need to do anything and I don't need to think about anything. It's when you go to bed. So your body's set up, say, oh, okay, so we don't have to do anything or think about anything. Guess it's bedtime. You get sleepy. My teacher also said it's the kind of sudden contrast between sitting and just being rather than running around and doing and thinking. So that contrast slows you down. That's something that's very common. The other is understanding that what we're not trying to stop thinking. Thoughts are part of the experience. You can be with your breathing and notice a thought come up and just let it come and go. And if it does, that's okay. Let it come and go. It's only if it takes you away. As someone said, it's you can be there and watch the parade of thoughts. It's when you find yourself in the parade that you realize you got taken away in a daydream. Okay, so are there questions? Is it okay to lay in bed and meditate? It is. The reason we're doing sitting up is over the 2,500 years, they found that when you're learning this practice, and often doing the practice, if you're lying down, you tend to fall asleep. And if you're standing up and walking around, you tend, you need to train to be mindfulness in action. So the interesting thing is I've used this practice to develop a cure for insomnia. And that is, what you do is you do the grounding practice. Lie in bed, and whatever, if you're lying on your back, your stomach, your either side, traditionally lying on your side, it's easier to do this. Lie on your side, and then let all your weight sink down to that side of your body. When you let yourself sink down to that side of your body, and then with each breath, make an audible sound. It creates a vibration. You go, ah, like a sigh. And you'll know that if you're uptight, you go, ah. And you'll start to feel as you relax more, again, really let your weight sink. And with each out breath, feel like you're sinking more into the mattress, and your breath's getting deeper, and the sound is getting deeper. And then soon it'll just be an out breath, and it'll be like you're voicing something, but no sound comes out. And then you'll probably fall asleep pretty soon. Now, here's the good news. If you can't fall asleep, do the mindfulness practice of the sensation of filling and emptying, coming back from daydreams. Because when you do the practice, brain science has shown that the brain waves that are generated are very similar to sleep. So it's as if you're getting 2/3 or 3/4 of an hour sleep for every hour that you meditate. So even if you lie all night for 8 hours and you never fall asleep, but you meditate, it's like you got 5 or 6 hours sleep. That's why when I was doing the long retreats, we would only have 5 or 6 hours sleep, because all day long of meditation was like getting additional sleep. So I hope that's helpful. Another question on the body scan: other techniques for releasing tension when it won't go away. Okay, you're not trying to force it away. You're trying to release as much tension as will just melt by your awareness. But one of the techniques that you can do is intensify and release. So if you feel some tension in your jaw, you can tense it and release. Tense your shoulders, release. Tense your deep belly, release. It's a progressive relaxation technique. I think it was Jacobson or someone like that, a name like that developed it. And you can go through your whole body that way. Progressive relaxation all the way through. Intensify and release. There's also a question about golf mindfulness instructions. Yes, and that's part of my golf lessons. We're not going to do that today, but Camiel, you can email me and we can talk about it. Okay, so let's move on. After we've done the grounding and then the close placement, so now we're going to do environmental mindfulness. So this time, let your eyes look straight ahead. Okay, take your good posture. Chin slightly in, back of your neck extended, shoulders back. Let your breastbone come up and forward a little bit while your back widens backwards a little bit. It kind of puts you in a very good mindfulness posture that way. But eyes looking straight ahead, soften your gaze, open up your vision. Notice all the colors, shapes, and shades of light and dark in your vision, in your field of vision. You don't have to move your eyes around. If you have a soft kind of wide-angle lens perspective on it, open up to your peripheral vision, and you can see there's a bright light in the upper left corner. There's a chair in the lower right corner. Round, square, light, dark, colors. Brown, green, yellow. Label them, but don't comment on them. And then open up, leave your eyes open, but open up to your hearing. You can hear my voice coming out of your phone or your computer, and the spaces between the words. Listen for sounds all around you, and then listen in all directions for sounds as far away as you can hear. Now again, leaving your eyes open, looking straight ahead, tune into your bodily sensations. Feel your body moving as you breathe in and out. Feel the weight of your sit bones on the seat that you're on, the cloth or skin under your hands, the air on the skin of your hands and face. Cool, dry air as it comes in through your nostrils, warm and moist as you breathe out through your nostrils. You might even feel your heart beating, your pulse in your chest, wrists, or neck. And then turn inward and be aware of your thoughts, the stream of your thoughts. Notice the next thought that appears in your mind. Notice how thoughts appear, stay for a moment, disappear, and another thought arises. Sometimes it might feel like they morph from one right into the other, but there's always a little gap in between, like frames of a movie. And now, just relax your mind and let it move. And we didn't do smell or taste. If you smell something, be aware of that. But let it move through your sense perceptions, including your perception of your thoughts. And let it dwell for as long as it wants. Your mind wants to stay on whatever sense perception you're tuned into. You might hear a sound, and that triggers attention to hearing, or my voice. Listen for a little while. Then you see something and shift to visual. A thought pops up. Notice what you're thinking. You feel someplace in your body, notice your body. Let your mind move, but always in the present moment of your sense perceptions. Good. Okay. So, what you may have noticed is that when you focus on one sense perception, your awareness focuses on that. That becomes the foreground of your awareness. That sense perception occupies your awareness. All the others move to the background. Like if you're looking at a Mac and you see the dock down along the bottom, whatever you're focused on, that icon gets bigger and the others all get smaller. So your mind moves through. And that's why when you're occupied in a daydream, all the other sense perceptions go to the background and you miss what's going on. So you may have also found it was a little challenging because there wasn't a specific object of attention. So this is usually regarded as a slightly more advanced practice, but it's something that you can tune into. If you do this every day, you start with your grounding practice. Then you do most of it as what's called close placement, tuning into your body and your breathing. And then the last couple of minutes, you do sense perceptions and more expansive awareness. Okay? And Ken asks, is anyone else hearing distorted audio? I think everybody else would be muted. Oh, wait, I see Karen. There we go. That's why Karen was unmuted. Okay, we got it. Okay, is that better, Ken? Should be good. Yep, there we go. Okay, so if you have any questions, that was the question. Is anyone hearing distorted audio? If you have any other questions, go ahead and write them in. And we're going to wrap up in a couple of minutes. We started at 5 after, so we can go till 10:50. Let's see. Oh, and I'll share with you the metaphor from the mindfulness tradition that our sense perceptions are like a monkey in a room with 5 windows. And the monkey can jump from window to window, but it can only look out one window at a time. That's why whatever sense perception is the foreground, all the others go to the background. And talk about walking meditation is the question. Yes, and this is the transition. So once you get up from practice, when I teach a session, the last thing that we do is do slow motion movement and awareness of our body and how we move through space. And that's mindfulness in action. So walking meditation is just shifting the object of attention from the internal sensation of your breath filling and emptying, but staying with your awareness of your posture, but the object of your attention being the movement of your legs and feet as you walk. Feeling the ground as you place your feet on the ground under your feet as you place each footstep, feeling your legs move as you swing your legs, each one forward. And that's walking meditation. You can either do it in a circle, you can do it in a straight line and turn around and come back and forth, like on a track, or you can do what's called aimless wandering and just find an area to walk and let your feet lead you rather than your thinking mind. That's actually one of the chapters in the Walk in the Wood that Winnie the Pooh does, aimless wandering. And you'll find yourself, your tendency to try to guide yourself and have a sense of humor about that, smile and come back to just noticing. Any other questions? Okay, so what we're going to do is to conclude the practice. As human beings, we are interdependent. You know, we just work with our breathing, and we breathe in from the environment, and it becomes part of us. We breathe out, and the breath becomes and we become part of the environment. So in the same way that we're interdependent with our environment, we're psychologically interdependent with our social environment. So to do the practice just for ourselves has some benefit, but it's much more beneficial to share that benefit with others. So traditionally, we conclude a practice with what's called the dedication of the merit or benefit of the practice. So we'll say something, and we can all say this together. I'm going to leave it muted, but we can all say it together, and you can repeat after me. Okay. May the practice I have just done be of benefit to others as well as myself. So now we've shared the benefit to others. And if you're feeling particularly generous or you want to cultivate generosity, you can say something like, may the practice I've just done be of even more benefit to others than myself. And that's very, very generous. So I'm going to unmute everybody, and we can all wave and say goodbye. Thank you so much for attending the session, and I hope it was helpful. And again, if you have any questions, you can always send an email to us. Okay?
I had one question, Dr. Joe, just before you go.
Yes, Rob.
Recommended length of practice?
Well, you know, it can, as I said, you can do many short sessions. You can do it as short as just 1 or 2 minutes of grounding, and then 2 or 3 minutes of the close placement, and a minute or 2 of the sense perceptions, and you've done a 5 to 7 minute session. I do that when I get up in the morning. I do some stretching, and then I sit either up in bed or swing my legs over the side and just do a few minutes of the practice. You can do very short practices during the day. As I said, red light practice. Stop, 1, 2, or 3 breaths. Hey, how about this? When your phone rings, take at least 1 full breath in and all the way out before you even move toward the phone. Let it be your signal for mindfulness. Consider it your meditation bell. That's what your phone is, instead of come pay attention to me bell. Okay. Now, if you have longer, 20 minutes is great. I'd do 20 minutes and then break with a little bit of walking, and then you can do another 20 minutes. Again, you want to stay fresh. You want to finish your session eager to do the next one, rather than, oh, thank goodness that's over with. Otherwise, you're not going to be really eager to go and do the next one. Okay?
Great.
I hope that's helpful.
It's very helpful. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.